Well, somehow I managed to qualify for the Regional Championship for Magic the Gathering. This was Season 3, Round 2 in 2024, and this one was hosted by StarCityGames.com in Washington, D.C. This is actually their first time hosting it, and it really did feel like the old Open Series they held a long time ago. The coverage quality, the overall event was really well managed, and I'm going to be showing you some of that, some of how I did, my deck list, and the opponents I played against. If this is your first time showing up, make sure you start by hitting the subscribe button.
Regional Championship players, please find your seats for the player meeting. Once again, Regional Championship players.
This event really did feel like the old Grand Prix from back in the day. I think it had just under 2,000 competitors for the main event itself, and there was other events like modern 10Ks and 5Ks and other qualifiers for regionals. I think there was a last chance qualifier for this one the Friday before. I believe this is round 1, and this photograph actually comes from Star City Games to give you a sense of the scale. This is the area where the regional competitors were playing, and there were many other events and things going on. I don't know exactly where I am. I think I'm somewhere here in the top right, but right here in the center of the photograph near the bottom, you can see that's Doomweight there. So pretty cool stuff. I'm just going to show you some of the photos that I took as I was walking around. One of the things that I really love when going to these events are artists. I love artists signing the cards. It's just something I enjoy, especially I go and get it myself. I'm not a big fan of buying cards already signed. I'd like to own the card and get it signed myself, and Mark Poole was there, which is awesome because I don't think I have any cards signed by him. And I forgot to actually look up the artists that were coming. I didn't bring any of my ponders, but I did happen to have a few cards for him, as well as a few other artists. But this area here is actually the designated area for the commanders to play, and they've got some of these cool 4-player playmats. And what you're supposed to do is you buy this pass for the weekend that comes with some tickets for the prize wall. You can play in events. It was like $80 for one or $85 for a different tier. And I was like, well, I'm in the main event, so I'm not going to buy this until I scrub out and I can do something on the side. Maybe I'll go buy some commander stuff. The problem was it sold out. So I didn't buy it in advance because I didn't want to expect to lose, but that didn't really work out for me in the end. Mark Team was also there, got a few signatures from him. This was the coverage area because there was coverage, and I think the quality was really good. It really did feel like Star City Games. I mean, we had Cedric and Patrick. It was awesome. So I took this photograph as I was going by. Here's one a little bit of a wider angle. When you sit down, this is what they give you. You have your designated seat for the players meeting, and you get your own metal high quality badge with your name on it next to your deck list. As you can see there, I did end up going with Azorius Lotus Field, which I a little bit regretted, but we'll get into that later. The event itself, I think I noticed, has a slightly lower payout at the top end. I think the Dream Hack was 30 grand for the first place, but it seems like it pays out a little lower. And I'm pretty sure if I remember right, Pro Tour invites went out to the top. Was it 44? So don't quote me on that, but I think there might be a few more Pro Tour invites and the payouts go a little lower now. But again, I'm not 100% on that. When I was deciding on my deck list, which is Azorius Lotus Field, I was expecting a lot of Phoenix, maybe some Green Devotion, that Rakdos aggro, which is really just a mono red aggro with a little bit of some of the new cards. I thought I'd play against a little bit of control and maybe a few other old deck lists what's the Greasefang guy and some other stuff like that. Well, it didn't really turn out to be that because round number 1, I did not play against that. Here's what the metagame breakdown for day 1 looks like. Control was the most represented deck, followed by the decks I was expecting to play. But Enigmatic Incarnation I did not think would have this many. And it turns out that Duskmourn had a lot to do with it. There were a lot of good enchantments in that set. So that threw me off a little bit. But I wasn't like too far off in terms of what I was expecting to play, as you can see there. And this is kind of what the day 2 breakdown looks like. Something else to keep in mind is when I chose the deck I chose, I was considering playing just regular Zori's Control. Then I was like, I don't want to go to time. I really don't want to get draws because they're basically just losses and the deck didn't win fast. But I liked Azori, so I liked the card. So I was like, well, maybe the Lotus Field version gives me a little extra punch to end the game. And I'm going to go over why that didn't work. So here's a list I ended up registering, if you weren't really able to catch the paper there. Nothing really crazy. I really enjoyed main board High Noon. I was already playing this in my blue-white version, like the normal blue-white Azori's Control, because one, it's intrinsically kind of bad against fast red aggro, and this card is really good against fast red aggro. Two, it's also just good against a lot of the decks in the format, like Lotus Field Combo and Phoenix. And this card's just really good. It's a 2-mana Rule of Law that has an extra ability. Excellent card. But other than that, it's mostly, I'm still playing my pet card, White Sun's Twilight. I think this is a good way to close out the game, and it's just a very strong card. But pretty much the rest of the deck, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. Some of the numbers and individual pieces may vary, but overall, I think pretty straightforward. My round 1 opponent was Enigmatic Incarnation. And he was complaining that I was playing Zori's Control, and he's like, this is a bad matchup. I'm like, I don't know. And so we start playing, and game 1 goes really long. And I don't see any Lotus Field stuff. I think I draw maybe 1 or 2 discontinuity way late in the game, but it's just normal land drops, no Lotus Fields, no Strict Proctors, none of that. But I do end up grinding him down so he can seize the game. Game 2 obviously doesn't go as long because we took the majority of the time on the clock, but it goes, he wins in the end, and then game 3 we have like 1 minute. So we don't finish, and it's a draw. And a draw, like I said, is basically just a loss. So we're both kind of upset, and that puts us in the draw bracket with all these blue-white players. And so neither of us really want that, but he seems to be... He offered to see if I would concede so I wouldn't have to deal with that. I'm like, but wouldn't you have to deal with that too? And isn't it worse for you? And he actually thought about my counter-argument to him for a little bit. And he legit considered it for a while before we submitted it. And ultimately decided to take the draw. So we start 0-1. As far as the details of the game, I'm trying to remember how I actually beat him. I don't know if I remember the details, but... here's some of the new cards they were playing. These Overlord cards are really strong because you pay an under... I don't know if you can tell with this frame here on Melee, but the under cost of Impending gives you a 5-drop, or in this guy's case, a 6-drop, that Enigmatic can then increase its mana value of. So I think that's pretty cool. And just lots of little bullets of high-quality cards, but his game plan is slow enough that my blue-white deck can establish blue-white things, and I can accelerate on mana. But yeah, I didn't see any Lotus Field stuff. Going into round number 2, I play Enigmatic again. Oof, man. Now, it's a little bit different, but the overall deck list is the same. I did take out High Noon in both matchups, because this is a matchup where they're not really generating a bunch of spells early in the game. But he didn't have High Noon in his main board, so that was a slight difference there. And this guy, I did manage to go turn 3 Lotus Field, do the things, and I beat him 2-0 pretty easily. So I started the tournament 1-0-1, which is, at least I got a win, right? So far I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's something here. And then I get paired up against Azori's Control. And so my original thought when I chose the deck I did was I wanted to be able to not go to time as much, but still kind of play an Azori's Control deck. I thought, oh, maybe I'll have the edge on the mirror match because I have faster mana and stuff like that. As I sat down and realized that's what we're playing against, I'm thinking about it. Looking at my opponent, we're kind of discussing a little bit because the game clock starts at 52 minutes instead of 50 minutes because during the first 2 minutes, you exchange your deck lists because this is an open deck list tournament. So we kind of look at each other's deck lists, get an idea of it. Because once the game is going, you do not consult your opponent's deck list anymore. So during that first 2 minutes and right before, we're kind of discussing things, and then he says a few things about Lotus Field, and I'm sitting here thinking about the cards I have. I have Strict Proctors, I have Discontinuities, and I'm like, he's got all these counter spells, right? He's got 4 No More Lives, 3 Dovin's Vetoes, and I'm 3 steps ahead, change the equation to find it. So I'm thinking, this is actually a bad matchup. this is not a good matchup. Because I was like, I've got to do my stuff set up Lowe's field. He's just going to wait, and he'll have all the counter spells, and I'll have nothing. And that's exactly what played out. I did make a pretty big mistake, I think. I think it was game one. I don't remember. I like animated to go attack with my Hall of Storm Giants to attack his Planeswalker. I think it was at a Emperor. And I just was thinking much about the ward, but in response to the activation, he fielded out. I forgot he had a field. So I made some mistakes. But I managed to win game two because I just had a fast draw of Strict Proctor, and I got really far ahead. And I managed to win game two, but game three, I had no chance. It was basically the same thing as game one. So now I'm 1-1-1. So I'm like, oh, I need to be able to win 6 to make day 2. So I go into round 3 and I play Rakdos Transmogrify. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a good matchup. Like, they don't have that many threats. And we go to 3 games. I can't remember which game I win, but the game I win, I had double Lotus Field. And I ended up getting to Fairy Down and untapping, and he's just like, okay, I give up. I think it was game 1. So he's conceded a little early to speed it up. Game 2, he gets into Traxa. I kill it, but eventually just kind of, I don't have enough removal to kill all his little 2s and 3s attacking me, and he kills me down. I can't remember how game 3 goes, but he thought seizes me like twice. I don't have a good draw. I think I'm mulligan to 5. It was pretty bad. So he ends up winning, and now I'm 1-2-1. So if I lose one more or draw one more, I'm out. So now I've got a runner win out, and I end up playing against Phoenix, which is a deck I am mentally prepared for, and I've had some experience with, but it's still not a great matchup, and I don't have a lot of experience with this deck itself. Game 1, I believe I end up losing to well-timed Phoenixes from his hand, and I also mulligan pretty low. Game 2, I got sideboard cards and beat him, and then game 3, I mulliganed to 4. So he ultimately wins, and then I'm sitting there thinking, okay, should I drop now and go get the Commander Pass? And lo and behold, it was sold out. So I didn't really have much to do. That's when I took the time to get all the signatures, and I did some other stuff. But it was overall a really well-run event, and I'm glad I was able to go. My main thing was I ended up talking myself with some of my friends into playing a deck I had never played before and kind of misjudging. And I should have picked the deck earlier and spent time preparing rather than taking time to think through creative deck choices. That was the mistake ultimately I think I made in the event. But it was definitely a great time. And if you like content like this, make sure you like and then subscribe.